First and foremost, we need to embrace the efficiency opportunities that have been there for decades. But look how we've ignored them. 20 years ago, the U.S. fleet was slightly more efficient than it is today. So in 20 years, we've gone downhill about a half a mile a gallon, something like 22 to 21 and a half. That's an insane pattern, can't persist, but it's also an enormous opportunity. However, people think you can do that overnight. Well, we've got these Toyota Priuses, we've got this technology, and we've, despite the battery problems that poses as well, we can do this. And indeed we can, but the Toyota Prius, just to cite a really interesting example, has less than 1% of the fleet on the road. All the hybrids together are less than 1% of the fleet on the road, and that's been a 7-year process just to get here. This can't change quickly. This is the proverbial ocean liner going fast, and the guy at the helm can't turn it fast enough. So, and in fact, they're not trying to. That's the really frustrating part with efficiency. This #1 strategy that we encourage is that it appears to us that there's sort of a mutual suicide pact between Detroit not wanting to change because they don't think consumers want to change, and Washington, D.C. being willing to support the business as usual scenario despite a lot of argument. If they were really committed to change, it would have happened. Sadly, I think the American public, though, is very culpable in this. We like to point at Detroit and D.C., but the fact of the matter is the Pogo cartoon from decades ago was right. We have met the enemy, and he is us. We need to change. We can't expect the leaders to jump in the front of a parade that doesn't exist yet. We need to get together, place a greater value on our kids' futures, both the climate and the availability of energy for them for essential needs, not just this big bonfire that we're having now, and proceed to get smarter in a hurry. So efficiency is the #1 strategy. The second, right after that, we think we need a rational evaluation tool for looking at, as a means of looking at all of the options on the table, ethanol from corn, coal to liquids, gas to liquids, oil sands, tar sands, all atomic energy, oil shale, everything, efficiency, all of them should be put on the table and then evaluated based on a rational process. And that rational process would include a number of things that aren't even on the table now. Right now, it's politics that is determining our choices, not physics. And we think physics should play and the science should play a much bigger role in this as we go forward. We think efficiency would win out in any of these scorecard evaluation systems, but you do need to go through a process to evaluate everything. And that evaluation process would look at the energy return on the energy invested in any supply side opportunity. How much energy do you get output per unit input? That's much higher for oil today than it is for ethanol from corn today. And it's much higher for ethanol from sugarcane in Brazil than it is from corn. And we can't grow sugarcane in the States. All of those, because we don't have the sun and the climate that Brazil does and so on. So you need to look at the net energy, but we need to look at the carbon footprint. We need to look at the scalability. How much of this stuff can come by when? If you're banking on ethanol from cellulose, how much and by when? We haven't even got a process available yet to us to bank on, to build on. We haven't got a prototype that is good enough to say, let's commercialize. So all of these supply side opportunities need to be carefully evaluated against one another, and then they also needed to be evaluated against the efficiency option. And we're convinced that the efficiency option would rise to the top like cream, but sadly there isn't a systems approach that's been taken in Washington, D.C. To addressing the long-term peak oil problem. Everyone just looks at the supply side. That's not an integrated systems-based approach. It's just, who's got the deepest pockets. We've got to change that. We haven't got time to mess around the way we did in the 70s.